welcome to a new episode of Pink Paper Video. I am bringing you a card today that is made using DCWV premium paper stacks, one of the 8.5 by 11 stacks, chameleon markers, which I will do some explaining about as I'm coloring, and two stamp sets, one from Unity, an itty bitty stamp set from Unity, and a stamp and die set from Stamps of Life. First, I'm going to ink up my Unity image, which will be my focal image. And it is this super adorable little baby elephant. Originally, the elephant is holding a small balloon with a heart in the middle. But since I had these really great stamp and die set of these balloons that had patterns in the middle that were a little bit larger than the original balloon from the image, I decided to go with those so that I could pop it up and give the card a little bit more dimension and make the balloon a little bit of a bigger focal part of the card. Instead of playing any music while I color, I'm going to go ahead and explain the way that you use these new chameleon alcohol markers, because they're really different than the traditional different alcohol markers, no matter what you use, whether it's Spectrum Noir, whether it's Copic, any of the alcohol markers on the market. These will work with those, but they are very different in some ways. So the first way that they're very different is that they have a barrel that is attached to each marker, and it contains basically a type of blender solution, which if you have a colorless blender in your markers that you currently own, it's basically that kind of solution, just formulated to work with the markers that come with the chameleon set. What you do is you have either a bullet nib end or the painter nib end, the brush nib, and you take the nib and you put it up into the barrel, and the two ends, the end that has the pigment in it touches the end that has the solution, blender solution in it, and it desaturates the color in the end that has the color in it, which is a confusing way to say that, but basically it seeps down into the end of your marker and it makes the color lighter. As you can see here, you can go back and use techniques that you usually would use with any regular alcohol marker, except you don't have to keep switching between each marker. You just have to plug the pen into the barrel end and count. And you will find, as you use the markers more and you get a little more experience with them, that you'll know pretty much what shade is going to come out of the marker by how long you count. So I've gone ahead, as I've been talking about these chameleon markers, and I colored in our little image. I left a lot of highlight because I wanted it to be it's a baby, so I didn't want to make it too dark, and it's going to be on an all pink card, so I wanted to make it like a baby girl. The other thing these chameleon markers come with is basically a multi-liner, and that is a pen that is a very, very fine point on each end. One end is finer than the other, but they're both drawing utensils, and they are great for adding little details to your images and defining lines that maybe didn't stamp so well. So I went around the image just to give it a little more of a depth and a little more shadow, and then I'm going to go in and use sort of an annotated version of a Jennifer Maguire trick, which is to just put a little bit of texture in by putting some dots in the areas where there are the most shadow. And once the whole thing is done and you see the end result, it really gives it a sweet little textured baby look, because baby animals kind of have weird markings on them. So I thought, I'll add some little polka dots, around its belly and around the underside of its trunk, and it looked a little more babyish to me like that. As always, I included a mistake. I didn't realize that I had a sentiment stamp stuck to the bottom of it, and this stamp didn't stamp completely the first time, but as you can see, it's extremely high quality, these Stamps of Life stamps, and I was able to just go back in, considering it was a clear stamp, see where I had made my mistake, and just re-stamp over it, and it ended up coming out just fine. So here again is a different color of the chameleon marker. This is the pink. I will say the only thing I have a complaint about at this point, which could just be the fact of the paper, the pH balance of the paper I'm using could affect this. Some of the very bright colors do have a little bit of they turn sort of a neon color, almost like they're reacting to the pH balance in the paper. And I think maybe if I was using an acid-free paper instead of, I think maybe this was watercolor or something like that, or just plain cardstock, it might not do that. I will have to experiment and I will get back to you on that. But it can be fixed by doing exactly what I'm doing here, which is completely desaturating the next closest color and kind of just going over the whole thing and taking it down to less of a bright neon looking color. And I used the red to do that. I also added a little bit of a deeper shadow on the darkest side of the balloon, and then I just went back to the pink marker and I blended it all in. Here I am using my definite new favorite thing. I was pretty late in the stamps and matching die party. I was not an early adopter to that, mostly because I thought, for the cost, I didn't really understand the reason why it was so special and important for me to do it. And then I decided that I had seen so many people that I admire using them, and so there must be something to this. So I went ahead and I went and bought a couple of Stamps of Life by, I think, Stephanie Barnard, and I am in love with them. It saves so much time. Here I'm just stamping the balloon in order to be able to give myself a little bit of a guide as to where I want that to sit. And it also just adds, weirdly, it adds a little bit of depth or shadow or something to the underside. It makes it really look like it belongs there. I like doing that when I have an element that I can pop up. I go ahead and stamp it without coloring it or anything underneath. And it helps me compose the card before I actually commit to adhesive or anything like that. So I'm just going to pop dot this up onto the image. And now that my image is completely colored, I'm going to get out my premium paper 8.5 by 11 collection. The premium paper collections are 5 either monochrome or sometimes they're coordinating cardstocks in different, I don't know what you would call that, different mediums. A lot of times you'll get glitter paper, you'll get vellum, you will get an embossed image, you will get maybe some cork or some canvas. You'll get usually one regular cardstock, whether it's just a plain or an embossed cardstock. It can be, and then it can also be multicolor printed paper. For this video, I'm focusing on a monochromatic premium paper collection that's all in pinks, because this is going to be a girl baby card. And just here, I'm finishing up coloring the grass on my image. I've just taken the multi-liner and I extended the grass so that it covers the whole bottom of my panel. And then I took the green chameleon marker and I filled it in, adding some shadows under where that baby is sitting. So I grab my corner chomper and I'm going to round all the edges. You get a special bonus mistake in this video. Usually I try to only add about 1 mistake, but there was 2 in this. You don't really get to see me fix it, but you will see me hesitate as I discover that I make it. So I'm taking the solid glitter paper out of the premium paper collection, and I'm going to attach my focal image to it and then cut so that there's a glittery mat all the way around my focal image. At the end of the video, I actually included my first try at this card, which was also really successful, and the only difference is that I used an all orange color scheme, so it's the exact same card made over in more of a gender neutral color scheme, and the whole point of doing that was to show you that you can use the same techniques over and over, or the same design over and over, and you could get a couple of these different monochromatic paper collections that are available at Joann's, and it could totally change the purpose of your card. I could have made this card over again in a red or a blue and used the other sentiment, and then it could have just been a birthday card instead of a baby card. There you go. There was me fixing my other mistake, which is that I made my panel too big because I didn't measure anything, which is a bad idea. I'm usually a fan of measuring. I don't know what happened to me. I lost my mind for a minute. But I went ahead and I just pried it up a little and cut it off to the right size and fixed it. So there is the panel as it will appear on the card. And I'm just taking the strip that I cut from the paper stack and wrapping it around the bottom of the card. And then I'm going to pop my panel up with some dimensional adhesive and put it on the card. And then we'll move on to the sentiment and the finishing details. So as I was saying, you know, having these, especially if you're a card maker, the 8.5 by 11 premium paper stacks are excellent for giving your other supplies different meaning. So I could have done this in all blue and it could have been a boy baby card. I could have done it in a couple of different colors from a couple of different premium paper stacks and it could have been a birthday card. And it allows you to get a lot done and have the things that you make go very far without having to do a bunch of brain work, you know, every time. So here I just stamped my sentiment. I'm not going to emboss it or anything. It's just stamped in black memento ink. And I'm going to round the corners of this panel, and then I will mount it on a third piece of paper from the paper stack that I'm working from. Christina Warner, she uses that corner chomper that I've begun to use, and I was resistant to buying an expensive corner chomper for a long time because I just thought, well, the corner rounder I'm using works okay, and I don't understand the reason why I should have to have one that costs that much. And then my old one broke, and I thought, well, this one seems to be very, very popular, and everything she does always comes out great the first time. So I bought it, and I am definitely a believer. If you are in the market for a corner rounder, a regular classic corner rounder, get a coupon, go to Joann's, get that one, because it's amazing. It will cut through anything, as is the way that with We Are Memory Keepers. They sort of will, that their tools will sort of go through anything and work pretty much exactly how they're advertised. So I'm going to attach that sentiment underneath, slipped slightly underneath the focal image, and one of the finishing touches I'm going to do is I'm going to take these little, they're sort of something between a gem and an epoxy dot. I got them from the Royal Castle Shop by Teresa Harris, and she has them in tons and tons and tons of colors, and they're really cheap, and they behave, even though they're smooth, they behave extremely well with lots of different kinds of adhesives. they don't have a slick surface that slides off of lots of adhesives. They just kind of have a, they're just kind of little drops of shiny plastic. But they look so good, and you can see through them, so it kind of, whatever you put them on takes up the background color too. I love them. They're my favorite alternative to a little, like a gem, like an actual gem. They look a little more whimsical than a gem. And then the last touch I'm going to do is I took some clear glitter smooch, and I added some glitter to the little balloon. Just going to dry it quickly there so that I can pick it up and show you, and I don't have any reason to think I'm going to smudge it and ruin it. So there is my final card. Here in a second you'll see some images of that, and I thank you so much for joining me every time I post a video. If you have any questions, leave me questions in the comments, and go check out the premium paper stacks at Joann's by DCWV. Here is another version of that card that's more of a unisex, unigender card. So possibilities are endless. Have a nice day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.